So, I actually want to use like this music video as a springboard to talk about Cyberpunk as a whole. Now, when I say as a whole, that doesn't mean I'm going to be covering each thing. I'm still primarily going to be talking about this music video. I'm not going to spoil anything from Edgerunners, the series, except to briefly mention how it's connected. And so like I do want to talk somewhat about like the tabletop as it is. I don't want to go in depth on my thoughts on 2077, but I do have some quite interesting stuff. Like if you're interested in the topic of cyberpunk as a whole, then there's some stuff I want to link in the description, and I'll briefly bring up what exactly those things are as I talk through this. So this music video, let's start with that. Okay, so this is a music video that takes place before Cyberpunk Edgerunners, featuring a character that is not seen or referenced in that show, who we find out is named Sasha. Now, it's clear that this takes place before the show because of in the first little scene, you see that her friend group is, as you watch the show and come to find out, literally members of the main cast of the show, right? And so yeah, that's like yeah. Once you see that, it's pretty clear that like this was a former friend of the situation. And I say former because you watch the music video, she dies at the end. Right? So there's so many there's two main like big topics I want to talk about, and that's that like one, she clearly was not expecting to die that day, and two, to kind of talk about like her, what she as a character represents in cyberpunk as a whole, especially if this music video is your first exposure to the thing and you've yet to actually experience any of the other things, be them 2077 or Edgerunners or the tabletop. So like it's first off, it's interesting that okay, wait, before I get into talking about the plot of the music video, let me just also clarify that like okay, when I first watched this video, I kind of like saw Sasha's face and then was like, wait a minute, that art style looks very familiar. Turns out that it is this music video. I don't know if it was. I don't think it was entirely animated, but like it was done with the help of a artist that is quite famous on Instagram, who I used to follow back in the 2010s. Let me see if I can find this person's name real quick. Yeah, there we go. Ilya Kuvshinov. I was missing the V. Ilya Kuvshinov. That's who we're dealing with here. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I'm pulling up the thing now, and they say they direction show where the character design. Okay, that's quite interesting. I think, okay, I'm seeing an Instagram post that's talking about the thing now. I think I'll link that too. Um, so, yeah, to talk about what's going on in the video. Um, it's what seems to just be a normal day for this person. Like, not a normal day, but like it in the sense of like just staying in the house and fucking eating chips or whatever. But like them going to do the job. And in this case, the job seems to simply be stealing some information from a corporation that seems to be a medical corporation. So they break into the main. So they break into the office of this corporation while it seems to be closed. Um, Hack into some higher up persons, if not the president's computer. And then while in said computer, they discover a classified file about a drug. This drug, she remembers, being the same drug that her mom was using while she, in some, I can't remember, in some way that it wasn't super clear that I can't remember, was sick. And this drug was defective and has some horrible side effects. And the implication is that that use of this drug killed her mom, right? So she's like, so basically she decides I'm going to send this information to a news tip hotline. And basically the way that this is framed is like it's clear that like this is a person being like, I did not expect, but I'm going to die today. I'm going to die for the cause today. Is essentially what is being set up here. And that's what happens. She essentially gives her life to get this information out. All to the music, right? What I want to talk about with this is I want to talk about how Cyberpunk gives an interesting perspective in the idea of that Cyberpunk is technically gangster media, essentially. It's technically that kind of story. Like it's literally set in America, set in California, and it's literally about like following like people who break the law, carry like tote guns and like have to kill other rivals and like freaking do all kinds of crazy shit. Now, it is very interesting in that it is a because of its nature, it is a very like sci-fi approach to gangster media, if that makes any sense. And because it is a sci-fi approach to gangster media, and this is an anime interpretation of that approach to gangster media, you end up with the situation where this motherfucker, who seems to be like either like her, as a child she was a redhead, so I'm guessing the implication was a white girl, like, and it's like, and yeah, no, this is, and she, you get like you see the situation is like again, like as a child she looks like a regular ass like plain old like sad white girl, and then as she is as an adult, she's very like she's found her sense of style. She has like she's very much like trying to be pretty. She fucking like yeah no has the pink and black thing going on with her clothes, and like large sections of her body, like her face, because of like she has the cybernetics, like she has like changed her face through cybernetics. So like she is a very very different person than she is depicted as a child. But that's the thing, is she is essentially unexpectedly brought back to the place where she was as a child, and in that essentially like this is a corny way to put it, but solidifies her soul, if that makes any sense, and makes a decision of like fuck everything else. And like the last little bit where she's essentially a fucking ghost hugging her childhood self solidifies it, of like she decides I'm gonna be the hero that my young self needed, right? In her last little bit. Now, again, this is the one bit we see of this character, so we don't have any indication that she was like selfish beforehand or anything like that. Maybe kind of, sort of, like you could kind of infer that just because of how the other characters, like within that group, are when you watch the show. Again, not getting deep into it, not getting deep into it at all. But like I said, ultimately, it's like even though Cyberpunk is a very different kind of what I'm referring to as gangster media, it is like the kind of thing of a lot of people who end up in lifestyles which put you on the other side of the law. Sometimes it's for the cause, sometimes it's for self enrichment. Um, Sometimes it's both. Sometimes it's kind of both. And again, an idea that you can explore more by watching Edgerunners. So yeah, no, we are not really giving an indication of exactly how she was before this particular mission, but it is a matter. It is a matter of fact of like this is like a thing where things clicked, and she had a moment of clarity in her final moments. Essentially, she decided to go out on her own terms. Essentially, and that's like again, this is not the kind of girl you look at and would think of her as a gangster type. But when you're like, depending on what kind of world you live in, sometimes people who don't fit the mold will just end up like in that position. End up you like someone who you would not expect based on the stereotype. Yeah, has to carry around a fucking pistol. Yeah, has to have ways to basically like defend themselves if someone tries to kill them. And like yes, will sometimes make decisions that put them into danger if it means either doing what they want to do or doing the right thing. And like the thing I want to stress about that is that like we don't live in a world that's too far away from that as things are. Like the world we currently live in seems like a place where it's just where what I'm talking about is like yeah, no, like historically in our world, like well not historically, but like in recent history, gangs are like a gang, like a racially segregated freaking like group of people, or like a group of people who willingly segregate into a specific demographic and like unify against the law in some kind of way. Now, that takes many forms, but what we're presenting at Cyberpunk is something very different where you get individuals or small groups of people who essentially decide to do that. And that is a thing that in recent years is a thing that happens, especially to kind of connect what I'm talking about, especially if you are someone who's even some like tangentially familiar with hip hop culture as it has been since the 2010s. That is a good example of what I'm talking about. Is that like these fools ain't Bloods and Crips. They start their own little gangs, right? In order to do things, or even like have people who essentially like maybe ride solo or just ride with a small like group of friends. And like this is not technically a new thing. Like Manchester Society also, those motherfuckers weren't no like Blood or Crips, but this is the kind of thing you get. This is the kind of thing you get is yeah, no, you get again, you get people who do things for these things for selfish reasons who are on one side of the thing, and then you get people who defy the law, who are essentially the point I'm trying to get at is that like the kind of groups you see in Cyberpunk can go either way, but the ones who we can follow as essentially protagonists are closer to something like the Black Panthers, if that makes any sense. Like a group that is very much against the law, but they do have a sense of morality that it is like, I'm looking at the government, these corporations, as evils. And yes, I'm a person who has my own, like, desires and selfishness, but like, I'm not going to victimize innocent people for that extent. Is the kind of, like, people who will defy, who people who defy the law, but people who are not going to like necessarily defying immorality, if that makes any sense, or at least not. Yeah, it's hard to explain, but like, yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's talking about the actual plot of what's going on in the thing. So the other thing that I wanted to bring up was essentially like, okay, if this is your first exposure to cyberpunk and you aren't familiar with like the setting and the technology and things like that, I do want to go over that somewhat, especially as it's explored in this music video. And again, we're going to use the character of Sasha and her actions as a basis. This is a girl who has a bunch of cybernetics in her body. As you like learn more about cyberpunk, most people do. Most people in the cyberpunk world at least have some kind of things in their body. Like, people will essentially have like small computers in their bodies. People have certain, there will be products, or there'll be certain kinds of devices that you can get installed. In her case, we see her use what are referred to as quick hacks. Like, side notes, quick hacks, cyberpsychosis is some bullshit. If that only works on, I don't know how that works in fucking like 2077, but like, that is fucked that you can just do that to someone. Because watch Edgerunners if you want to learn more about cyberpsychosis, and also it has its a different but equally like devastating way it works in the tabletop. But that's beside the point. But yeah, no. Quick hacks are a thing. While she's defending the computer, she basically essentially has a. I'm saying USB is shorthand, but it might not technically be. USB is a technically copyright its own thing that's specific to our world, but the same type of a type of like cord that you plug into the thing to transfer and receive data, right? I'm using USB as a shorthand for that, but like, that's what's happening. Is she has that, and she has like a long extension coming out of her wrist for this. So essentially, she has a cord in her, like, implanted into her wrist for sending and receiving data between computers, which is like that's something, right? Again, she's carrying the gym bag, and need to mention again, carrying inside her gym bag casually a fucking pistol and explosives, which she, need I remind you, did not originally intend to use. Like, she did not go into that building with the intent to blow up the computer. She was just gonna take the data and go originally, and then decided to blow up the computer, right? So she just had explosives ready to go for if she needed them. Like that's some different shit. That's the different kind of like street fucking lifestyle we are dealing with when we're looking at cyberpunk. Is motherfucker just don't just got the pistol, motherfucker has explosives ready to go. Like, that's some shit. And like, yeah, she has the freaking cat, like, she has the claws that she uses too, that just come out of her freaking thing. Like, when you really think about it, like, her body was like really fucking like cybered up with some enhanced shit, which is interesting too in comparison to the game where, and what I was just saying, where, again, I have not played the tabletop, but apparently it is generally a thing, and like this again, this is explored in Edgerunners too, where the more cybernetics you get like implanted into your body, it essentially psychologically affects you to where you have less empathy. It like starts to fuck with your brain after a while, and like the line is very interesting when you look at these characters in particular. When you look at Sasha, and like watching the show, when you look at Rebecca, to where like these are not characters who have gone too far with whatever cybernetics they have had implanted. These are characters who have clearly been smart about what they're like what they like allow to not like end up in that kind of situation, right? Or like the limit is not clearly defined, and the fucking writers were just like, fuck it, we just want them to have this shit. Like, uh, maybe so. Maybe it is. Maybe it is just a writing faux pas. And realistically, like from what it was originally intended, having this level of cybernetics really is supposed to turn you into a fucking like piece of shit, like with a fucked up brain. But like, whatever. But yeah, no. This we have a much more like independent people buying shit off the black market in order to fucking utilize kind of situation going on in Cyberpunk, right? So yeah, just to kind of rewind and like let's establish exactly what the hell Cyberpunk is in the first place, right? So like obviously in real life, Cyberpunk is an 80s tabletop game created like in that time of D&D, right? Meant as a competitor for that by one Mr. Mike Pondsmith, right? A like heavy set dark skinned man who like go look him up. He has the like salt and pepper thing going on with his hair. He also has a good voice. He has a really good voice for narration. So like yeah, go look him up. Go check out some of his stuff. Like he plays his own game, and he like has done things playing with people. So like there's videos you can find of him playing Cyberpunk with people, right? Or like being part of the session in some kind of way, and like promotional videos and stuff like that. But yeah, no, go yeah, no. So my fascination with Cyberpunk does have something to do is like here is a guy, here is a like here is a like black man who was clearly inspired by like Blade Runner and other similar works that existed to attempt to depict what to him might be a freaking 2020s America, which has had some shit go through it, right? And has essentially ended up with a situation where corporations have replaced the government essentially, and in that you get like shit like Arasaka, shit like Trauma Team, where yeah, no, again, watch the thing, you'll learn about these things. Where like you just have these corporations with way too much fucking power over the city, who are just like ruining people's lives. But funnily enough, you also have things that are technologically on such a level that people very much can fight back. That like the military forces do not actually properly have a monopoly on like military grade as we understand it now. Like fucking military grade like weaponry that is being like wielded by civilian fucking shit. Like what the fuck are we doing? Now, Cyberpunk is a fucking terrifying like alternative reality. It is one that we're past because again, the game was made in the 80s, and it is a game that depicts an alternate history from like even before the 80s, I believe. And it's the thing where like the type of stuff you are seeing in 2077 was already happening in 2020, right? One of the cyberpunk, like some of the most important cyberpunk stories take place in fucking 2023. So it's already passed. And uh, the expression has been made basically at this point, especially if you're for someone who had like has seen it on stuff on Twitter or has just seen things people have said on Twitter. The expression was made that like we live in the boring cyberpunk world where we do have a lot of really fucked up technological shit coming along thanks to assholes like Elon Musk and shit, and like just the existence of fucking billionaires who probably are putting a lot of money into like technology. They're like so much money has been put into fucking surveillance over the last 20 years, since 9/11, right? And like money has been put into military hardware by the U.S. government like crazy. So like yeah, no, we unfortunately a thing where like there is fucked up advanced technology. So many fucking people have died to drone strikes, like to put fucking, and now AI is a thing. So like yeah, we are absolutely getting fucked by like technology where they were smart, unfortunately, because like we know fucking Elon Musk is aware of cyberpunk. Like he wanted to be in the game. So so like unfortunately in reality that motherfuckers was smart enough to not have no black market military seller shit going on. Like it's just nah. Nah, as things are, if they want to kill us, they can fucking kill us. Like, if they want to, if the military wants to kill us, it's finna be a fucking Vietnam situation where we gotta out tactic them motherfuckers. It's finna be a fucking Rebel Alliance situation versus the Empire type shit. You ain't finna have motherfuckers pulling USBs out of their wrists and shit, unfortunately. Like, oh man. Okay, let me turn to a lighter note, right? So like I realize I didn't really talk much about the song, but I guess I can talk more about that when I cover Edgerunners. Because again, it's also the ending track for the like it's the end credits track for the show, so I can talk about it there. If you are someone who has not checked out Cyberpunk and you checked out the music video because of this video, I'm gonna put some stuff in the description. Some of the stuff in the description that I watched over the past few years since Cyberpunk has become popular. That kind of give you what you need to go. Give you an understanding, and like probably will instill maybe will instill the same sense of fascination that I have developed over this. It was not 2077 that created that fascination. It was specifically Tim Rogers' review of Cyberpunk 2077 that really started to sell me on the idea. And then the anime came along and it was a done deal. It was like, yeah, no, this shit's dope. This shit's dope. But yeah, no. And that's the thing too, is I really wanna give the tabletop a go. I'm someone who at this point kind of has a disdain for D&D for various reasons and does not want to really engage with that culturally so much as I want to elevate Cyberpunk, right? I want to elevate the original Cyberpunk tabletop game and give that most of my attention. I would love to play like get that set up, and I would love to play that as a community thing instead, right? So yeah, to that end, if you are interested in Cyberpunk, I'll leave some stuff down below so that you can yourself get into it. I will talk more about 2077 alongside my Edgerunners video. Hope y'all enjoyed this.